What is going on, guys? It is Wrestlelamia here, back with another video. Now, the WWE hasn't announced any major matches for Raw, but with Extreme Rules fast approaching, you can expect some big angles on last night's show. Join us now as Wrestlelamia analyzes Raw and looks at the wildest news stories and rumors you need to know, including more updates on Tessa, Blanchard and WWE. Two recently fired WWE wrestlers have now reportedly signed with Impact Wrestling. Vinnie Mac makes more millions, an update on Oliver Luck's lawsuit against Vince McMahon, and much more. As always, we won't waste your time recapping the matches, but we will take a look at the good, the bad, and the downright ugly from last night's show. As always, be sure to subscribe and hit that notification bell for daily wrestling videos. Let's start off with the good as always, as number 1, expected but unexpectedly entertaining. The opening segment with the title contract signing between Asuka and Sasha Banks started off predictably, but to the WWE's credit, it threw in some twists such as Drew McIntyre joining the festivities. As we know, contract signings are designed for one purpose, to get heat for a match, and this usually means a brawl. One trope that's always found in about 90% of contract signings is that somebody is going through a table. But whilst the fans got the brawl, the way the WWE changed things up made the segment entertaining and a good way to open the show, as well as to lead to the main event Champions vs Challengers match. Number 2, Big Show is no big dummy. Now we have to commend WWE as they've been doing well in portraying its babyfaces as more than goofy good guys who walk blindly into traps and don't fight fire with fire. But when the Big Show accepted Andrade and Angel Garza's challenge to a handicap match, he let interviewer Charlie Caruso know that he was expecting a trap from Randy Orton. It's good to see babyfaces, especially veterans, depicted as intelligent and savvy to the ways of the wrestling world. Number 3, hope for the hopeless. Could we be seeing a reunion of the Riot Squad? It looks as if the WWE is going to reunite Liv Morgan and Ruby Riott, two wrestlers who haven't done much of anything since splitting up. Whether a Riot family reunion works, it will at least add a talented team to the WWE Women's Tag Team division, a division that's sorely lacking at the moment. Number 4, letting talkers talk. Raw had some strong talkers, and it's good to see the Red Brand capitalizing on them, whether it's MVP, Ric Flair, Seth Rollins, Rey Mysterio and Apollo Crews. While some wrestlers have the gift of gab, other wrestlers need practice, and they can get experience, both by watching the professionals and by practice. Raw needs to start allowing more promos even if they're short. For example, Ruby Riott's backstage promo with the Iconics revealed there's more to Riott than an exotic look. Thanks to Raw's shorter segments, wrestlers should get more time to talk. Just don't go back to the 20-minute opening promos that made 2019's shows so boring. But that was the good. What about the bad is number 1, the Viking victims. The Viking Raiders' loss to the Street Profits on the 22nd June Raw wasn't the end of the world, and it was a good move as the Raw Tag Team Champions, the Street Profits, had yet to defeat them. However, Eric and Ivar's past losses, as well as last night's loss to the quickly disintegrating team of Andrade and Angel Garza, is inexcusable. Raw's tag team division needs serious help, and jobbing out one of the program's best teams is bad booking. Number 2, can Ruby Riott get a win? Ever since Ruby Riott returned to the WWE from injury, her win-loss record has been abysmal. In fact, she's been on a losing streak. Riott has lost against Asuka, Liv Morgan, Kairi Sane, Bianca Belair, and Charlotte Flair, just to name a few. Ruby Riott's last win was in February 11th, 2019's Raw, where she defeated Nikki Cross by pin. Ever since then, Ruby Riott has been losing, whether that be in tag team matches, singles matches, or multi-women matches. Hopefully with the reunion, they can spin things around and possibly make an impact in the women's tag team division. Number 3, promos can only go so far. While Raw featured some good promos again, there's only so much Dolph Ziggler can say before fans remember this is the same guy who hasn't held a world championship in years. Drew McIntyre reminding Ziggler that he's a choke artist probably wasn't the best way to build him up as a worthy challenger for his WWE Championship match either. This was a blunder by the WWE that's only furthered by the perception of McIntyre vs Ziggler as a filler match until the champion gets a top opponent for when the WWE resumes its shows in larger arenas with fans. Number 4. Be fair to Flair. Simply put, Ric Flair does not belong at the Performance Center with the WWE's current COVID crisis. Now we know that Ric Flair is probably thrilled to be on WWE television, but he shouldn't be there. The fact that Vince McMahon allows him, knowing Flair's age and many health issues that make him susceptible to the virus, is another reminder of his disregard for his performer's safety. Now there was no downright ugly of last night's show. It was another entertaining episode of Raw, although it bears mentioning that it wasn't as good as the previous 2 weeks. There weren't any major matches or angles to speak of other than the main event, and last night's show seemed like a holding pattern as the WWE prepares for the last 2 Raws before Extreme Rules. The mixed tag was unusual but entertaining, even if it did little to build up the hype for McIntyre and Asuka's title defenses. On a brighter note, the WWE's Crash television formula continues to work, and ironically the company seems to be giving lower card wrestlers more exposure than they got under Paul Heyman. Whether or not this translates into them getting over remains to be seen. Let's just hope they do something with Ruby Riott, as those statistics are abysmal. But that was the good, the bad, and the downright ugly. Let's move on to the news. Now our first story looks at more Tessa Blanchard news. Now there's no doubt that Tessa Blanchard could bring much to a promotion's women's division, but is she worth the baggage she allegedly brings? Pro Wrestling Sheet's Ryan Satin doesn't think so. I'd be very surprised if WWE brought her in anytime soon, as there are other wrestlers who had their signings paused due to the pandemic that don't have allegations of bullying, racial slurs following them. Doubt this is a priority to them at the moment with everything going on. TalkSport's Alex McCarthy disagrees and recently reported, a source close to Blanchard told TalkSport that they believe WWE is her likely landing spot. The source said that they didn't believe Tony Khan, and thus AEW are interested in Blanchard. Fightful Select had some interesting news on Blanchard's Impact contract, reporting Impact Wrestling included a non-disparagement clause in her termination papers. According to the report, NWA are structured in a similar way. Non-disparagement clauses prevent a former worker from saying anything negative about the company. It would prevent Blanchard from speaking out on issues she had with the company. If the allegations of Tessa's racist remarks and bullying are true, do you think the WWE should hire her? Let us know in the comments down below. Next up, 2 recently fired WWE wrestlers have now reportedly signed with Impact Wrestling. Now, reports have surfaced that Impact Wrestling was interested in signing both the recently fired Luke Gallows and Carl Anderson, as those reports indicated that they were offering a huge deal for the team. Not only that, but Impact had also teased their debut for Slammiversary during its promo. Now, whilst nothing has been confirmed yet by Impact Wrestling, Sportskeeter's Gary Cassidy has reported that Gallows and Anderson have signed with Impact several days ago. He tweeted, "Sources have indicated to myself that Luke Gallows and Carl Anderson have signed with Impact Wrestling in a deal that allows the former WWE Tag Team Champions to work with New Japan Pro Wrestling when travel restrictions are lifted." Again, we will have to probably wait until full confirmation has been given by Impact Wrestling, but it's highly likely they will debut at Slammiversary. What are your guys' thoughts on the tag team signing with Impact Wrestling? Do you think they should have gone to AEW? Let us know in the comments down below. Next up, Mr. McMahon makes millions during the pandemic. Never let it be said that Vince McMahon doesn't know how to take lemons and make them into lemonade. Perhaps a better phrase would be, he knows how to make COVID into cash. Ringside News has an interesting report on McMahon's financials during the current health crisis. Middletown Press reports that Vince McMahon's fortune shot up $177 million over the past 3 months. This is during a time when WWE saw widespread cuts including all live events. Live events were a money loser. Now that WWE doesn't have live events anymore, they are making money off every show through their television deals. It's probably another indication that WWE just wants to do away with live events. If they're sucking up money, what's the point? Next up, news in Oliver Luck vs McMahon lawsuit. It looks like the Oliver Luck vs Vince McMahon lawsuit is being put on hold. Heel by Nature is reporting that on the 26th June, Judge Victor A. Bolden administratively closed the case due to the ongoing bankruptcy proceedings of Vince McMahon's Alpha Entertainment. Luck will now have to wait until the XFL bankruptcy proceedings conclude, but he will be able to resume his lawsuit against McMahon, in which he claims he was wrongfully terminated. Next up, possible restrictions on Fyter Fest. AEW's two-night Fyter Fest special is scheduled to tape on 1st July, with the shows airing on TNT on 1st and 8th July. However, Ringside News' Felix Upton is suggesting that AEW could face some restrictions thanks to the new order by the city of Jacksonville, which states, at 5 p.m. today, the city of Jacksonville will be adopting a mandatory mask requirement for public and indoor locations and in other situations where individuals cannot socially distance. Please continue to practice personal responsibility to help stop the spread of this virus. AEW should not have any problem with the mandatory mask requirements, but what if Jacksonville city officials implement anything further? We'll continue monitoring this situation. Next up, 2 new trademarks for AEW stars. The WWE Hall of Famer Billy Gunn is the latest AEW star to make a stop at the United States Patent and Trademark Office. According to Heel by Nature, on 23rd June, Gunn filled trademarks for the name Colton Gunn and Sons of Gunn, both used for merchandise and live wrestling performances. With Billy teaming with his son, it's easy to see where things are going with this trademark. But there you have it guys, the good, the bad and the downright ugly from Raw, as well as the wildest news stories and rumors you need to know. Be sure to leave your comments down below, subscribe if you haven't already, follow us on Instagram and Twitter, and I'll see you next time with some more wrestling content.